WrestleMania 9, this is a love letter to WrestleMania 9 from me. I love this show. It's one of the first ones I remember seeing in real time. It gets talked about as a terrible, terrible show because there's DQ finishes and countouts and everyone's in togas. And when you get down to the wrestling, there's nothing there. But I mean, WrestleMania 9, what do you remember about when you covered it? I mean, we've seen Gorilla Monsoon in the toga there. We saw Bob Backlund. Fuck knows why they brought that guy back. But, we've got an elephant. It's all going on at WrestleMania 9. Do you enjoy it? Can you get into the kind of camp pomp and circumstance that WrestleMania 9 was? Or are you with the masses who think that this show is an absolute waste of time?
I thought it was foul. I mean, I remember it taking place and covering it in Superstars of Wrestling. And we actually had some, this was a rarity. Foul. That's the only word I can use to describe it. Egregious, Kenny. I was aggrieved afterwards. I remember we had a photographer there, and this was a rarity in the Superstars of Wrestling days. We actually had some really good photos from the show, and then the show let the photographer down. So I remember buying a new typeface actually for the layout, which was, I can't remember the name of the typeface, but it worked really well on the layout. So that's the level of commitment. Bought a new typeface. This was back in the day, kids, when you had to actually buy typefaces. So I remember the layout in Superstars of Wrestling being pretty good, but I remember my review being really critical. And I remember also the fans, the readers at the time, were absolutely up in arms about the quality of the show, and particularly the ending when Bret Hart was screwed by Hulk Hogan. I mean, I remember at the time, no one spared a thought for Yokozuna.
Listen, these were the days when we were taught that foreign people are evil. So that was why Yokozuna was taught as the evil person. Thankfully, we've moved on in society.
I don't even think he was foreign, though, was he?
Well, no. I mean, this is the problem. A lot of children thought that Yokozuna was Japanese because you were told that he was. And then you get to like an age where your brain works properly and you're going, he doesn't look Japanese.
Yeah.
At all. But I mean, the thing is, with WrestleMania 9, you had the Tatanka Shawn Michaels opener, which is a belter, with the debut of Luna Vachon. You got the Steiners and the Head Shrinkers, who had a great match. You've got Chloroform with Giant Gonzalez and The Undertaker. 2 Doinks. Yeah. You've got Vestal Virgins, Camels, Jim Ross, Macho Man getting fed grapes, Hogan winning the title. You've got Money Inc. You've got Jimmy Hart throwing a referee over the top rope. All the camp, pomp, and circumstance that you would want for WrestleMania. I feel like next year what we should do, Finn, because you don't like the show, you're a curmudgeon about it. Next year we should sit there and watch the show and review it, and maybe you'll have changed your mind.
Well, I think that's highly unlikely, but I'm willing to give it a go. I remember we did an interview with Lex Luger in 2013, I think it was, in Power Slam. I can't remember the name of the interviewer. And he said, what went wrong at WrestleMania 9? He said, oh, yeah, Perfect and I, we had this match all laid out and it was going to be tremendous. And then Perfect went out and got absolutely rat-assed, turned up for the match hungover, couldn't remember what they discussed, and they ended up, turning out that pile of shit. So that's it. That was what Luger said, was that Perfect was like going to be carrying the match. He was going to be calling it. And then he couldn't remember what they discussed and was hungover. And the end result was, a really inferior matchup at the biggest show of the year. But yeah, I'm all for it, Kenny. I'll gladly review that show with you. And hopefully I'll be able to make you see the error of your ways. That's what I'm here to do.
Well, we will do that next year. But I mean, do you have one highlight from WrestleMania 9? And don't say the end.
Well, I think Michaels versus Tatanka probably was the best match on the show. I do remember that. That would have been... That wasn't Shawn's first WrestleMania as a singles player, was it? No, that was the previous year, wasn't it?
Yeah, because he wrestled Tito, El Matador.
That's right, yeah. That's right. I mean, it was good to see the Steiners there. I mean, I was always a fan of theirs. I mean, they obviously had a difficult time in WWF. That's something I've never really talked about on a podcast. They joined in late 92 Obviously had a big falling out with Bill Watts. Went to WWF and never really quite fit in. But I mean, I think that by their standards of their matches in WWF against the Head Shrinkers wasn't bad. I mean, Hart versus Yokozuna could have been worse. I think Brett really did work hard to make that match as good as it could be. And it's only remembered, obviously, for Yokozuna's victory and then the impromptu Hogan challenge and Hogan defeating Zuna in, what was it, 29 seconds, less than a minute anyway, whatever it was. So I think that match probably is worth another viewing to reassess its value before what happens after Yokozuna becomes champ. I mean, Gonzalez versus The Undertaker. I mean, I'm sorry, Kenny. I mean, I know that you like your trashy wrestle garbage type stuff. You like your wrestle crap moments. But I mean, that was beyond the pale.